Hi, I'm Dale Bakke, Technical Services Director here at Strauss Feeds. Today's topic is refractometers. Refractometers measure the bending of light by a solution. What would we use a refractometer for? Refractometers are really useful for calf raisers, people that are raising young goats, kids, and raising lambs. We'd use them for testing the Brix level, IgG level, and colostrum. We really want to ensure that we're getting high quality colostrum into our next generation of animals that we're raising. We'd also use them for looking at total protein levels and our blood serum on these young animals to ensure that the colostrum's been delivered to that animal in a timely fashion and in a sanitary fashion and in sufficient volume, so we're getting our horsepower out of that colostrum going into that animal. And the third element is looking at milk solids. We want to make sure that we're getting consistent solids delivered to that calf, especially if we're using waste milk. We know from the literature that waste milk varies in solids anywhere from 9% to 13%, which is way too wide. From feeding to feeding, the maximum variation we want to have on that calf is plus or minus 0.5%. So if we can use that refractometer to standardize and ensure that we're getting consistent ration to that calf or lamb or goat, the better off we're going to be. We really have two different types of refractometers. I have a couple of examples here. Digital refractometer is going to run from about $200 up to about $550 or so. The nice thing about these is you can program them. They have several different scales in them. What I mean by scales is you could measure the IgGs using a Brix scale and colostrum. You could use the total protein. You can actually program the total protein directly into the unit, and you can also program in the milk solids. It's really the big three scales we want to use. The other nice thing about these is it's a nice big readout. It's easy to use, easy to clean, and for somebody like me who wears bifocals, it's very easy for me to make sure that I don't have to strain to read inside the analog unit. Analog units are very inexpensive, or can be very expensive. They vary from as low as $20 all the way up to, I would say, right around that $400 mark. This is just two different examples we have here. You just put a drop on the reflective unit, hold it up to a bright light, look in the lens. It is a little subjective. As I said earlier, somebody like me with bifocals, a little bit challenging, but they still get the job done. Other supplies that you'd probably want to have are pipettes. I like disposable pipettes. I really have a couple different examples here, short ones, long ones. Want to have some tissues of some kind. I've got Kim wipes, any soft tissue to clean the lens off between uses, and distilled water. We want to make sure we clean the lens between every use, so we're always starting with a clean lens. Distilled water, do not use tap water. Tap water actually has too many minerals in it. It's going to create problems with our readings down the road. You also want to have pen and paper for writing down your results. I've got a little milk sample we'll look at here later, and a beaker for putting some waste in, just because I'm in the lab. If you're out in the barn, you can probably squirt your leftovers on the floor. The scales on these different units are all correlated. Even if the units are different, you just want to make sure you understand the units so you make the cross tabulation. The analog units, as I discussed, almost all these are just going to read Brix. There are tables out there that correlate the Brix value to the total protein value for measuring blood serum, and also for correlation with milk solids. It's basically taking the Brix value and adding 1 to it. That's it for this session. Thank you so much for joining us today. Please join us for part 2, how to use a refractometer.